The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
21 plus and present in select states.
Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The Red Apple Media Podcast Network presents This is Protecting America. Now, here's Emmy-winning journalist Rita Cosby.
And welcome to another edition of Protecting America. I'm Rita Cosby. Well, former President Donald Trump had another big win in the 2024 race for the GOP presidential nomination with a big victory at the New Hampshire primary over Nikki Haley. So how did he do it? Where does the race go from here? And what are the biggest issues for American voters? Well, joining us now is somebody who knows all these aspects very well. He is the great pollster for President Trump and others from McLaughlin and Associates, John McLaughlin. How are you, John?
Very well, Rita.
How's it going? You know, what was your reaction, first off, when you saw that President Trump won New Hampshire? And also, that was a state that was definitely favorable for Nikki Haley in many ways, more than a lot of the other states in the country are.
No, you're absolutely right about that. And it was gratifying because we worked very hard and we knew this was, you know, like it was a nice try by Nikki Haley, but you know, she came up short, but this was the place where, of any state, she could ambush President Trump, and they, you know, all the circumstances that she wanted came together. But the Trump campaign credit President Trump especially for his leadership and his speaking out on his message. But this is something that the Trump campaign, under the leadership of Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles, we had planned out since early November. Or no, it was probably late November, early December. We definitely had a meeting in early December where we laid out the phases of the campaign, where we knew that President Trump was in the lead in Iowa, and he was gonna hold that lead in Iowa. And you know, we didn't want to run negative ads. We were being outspent by both Governor DeSantis and Nikki Haley. She had plenty of money, and Governor DeSantis had plenty of money. But they were both a distant second in Iowa, and we weren't going to run negative ads. We run positive ads through Christmas. And then after that, we were trying to siphon up votes because Iowa was different in that it's an organizational fight, and everybody had to be a registered Republican. So that's a caucus, which is different than New Hampshire. New Hampshire, on the other hand, that's where Nikki Haley, she knew that there was no Democrat primary on the other side. That's the way Joe Biden laid it out, that he didn't want to be embarrassed in New Hampshire. He didn't want to have a serious challenge, so he took away all the delegates. So if you were, if you were a Democrat or an independent, you had less of a reason to vote. And what's different about New Hampshire is there's 44% of the voters in New Hampshire are undeclared or independents. Only 28% are Republicans. Only 28% are Democrats. So if you're a registered Republican, you get to vote in the Republican primary. If you're a Democrat, you vote in the Democrat primary. However, the 44% that are undeclared get to pick the primary they vote in. So without a serious Democratic primary, Nikki Haley and her supporters went to work on Biden voters that are independents in New Hampshire and pushed them into the Republican primary. They were basically invading the Republican primary with Biden voters and trying to hijack it. And we saw it in our Trump polling, where 3 in 10 of the people that were going to vote in the Republican primary, a third of them, were previous Democratic primary voters. And so what's normally like a 2/3 registered Republican primary, like in 2016, and a third independents, but those independents like to vote in Republican primaries, not this time. It turned out to be half the voters were registered Republicans, but the other half were independents or Democrats who had switched to come in to stop Donald Trump. So for Nikki Haley, this was the ambush she wanted. She could bring in anti-Trump Democrats and anti-Trump independents who were probably not going to vote for her in November. They'll vote for Biden and try to ambush us. And they got beat. They not only got beat, she got beat decisively by 11 points, might be 12 when they're done counting, in a historic turnout of over 330,000 voters in New Hampshire. That was the most ever in a Republican primary. Back in 2016, it was 287,000 when President Trump won that primary. And so she had the ambush, but she came up short. It was a nice try, but it didn't work, and Donald Trump won decisively. He won like three-quarters of the registered Republicans. He won almost half the independents. And this was a very decisive win this week that had to be gratifying for President Trump because he was running on issues and policies.
You know, let's first talk about Nikki Haley. What does this say about her base that she did pull in a lot of these, as you talk about, these undeclared Democrats who were able to sort of infiltrate, if you will, the New Hampshire primary? What does it say about her base, especially going forward?
Oh, well, it's not a real base. It's not a real. She's not. There's no Republican state. There's no primary going forward that we can see she's going to win. She's probably going to lose, even though it's an open primary. She'll lose the South Carolina primary to Donald Trump. Donald Trump's ahead in the polls right now. And also, that's the first contest where Joe Biden will be awarded delegates from a primary contest. And so Joe Biden's already running ads appealing to African-American voters in South Carolina. Nikki Haley went in. She's running ads. And, Donald Trump, he's got a wide lead already. And so I don't know where she goes to win right now. So there is no base. And what it was just like she came in third in Iowa. She didn't come in second. She had a horrible debate. She was seen as nasty to Governor DeSantis. But Donald Trump was going to win with half the vote. He won with 51%. And she may have been in second in the polls before that debate that she had on CNN with Governor DeSantis. But after that debate, we had polling where she was, even though they were both distant, she was in second place. She lost the third place. She lost that debate to Governor DeSantis. So where she goes from here, I don't know. She's not going to Nevada. Nevada's on February 8th is the next contest, but it's a Republican caucus. She didn't even bother filing for it, so she's not going to get any Nevada delegates. She's going to face Donald Trump in her home state where the voters know her best. But the last poll that I saw there, Donald Trump was ahead 64-25.
Wow.
So this idea that she has a base, it's a creation, a myth, and a media creation.
What do you make of the fact, too, John, also in South Carolina, that, as you know all too well, you've got the two senators there. You've got Tim Scott, who, of course, was one of the challengers to President Trump, flanking him, cheering him on, supporting him. Right. Then you also have Lindsey Graham. You've got Henry McMaster, the governor there. I went to University of South Carolina, so I love South Carolina, John. But exactly. You know it well. So now, what does that do to her and her campaign? Do you see it going into South Carolina? Do you see there's a chance she might not be there in South Carolina, or she takes the maybe potential beating in the polls and tries to live till Super Tuesday? Where do you think?
She's got a tough decision because it's not just Tim Scott, who's a very popular U.S. senator, or Lindsey Graham, or Governor McMaster was her lieutenant governor, and he endorsed Donald Trump early. So he was very grateful that Donald Trump appointed her UN ambassador so he could be governor. So, and really the congressional delegation down there is with President Trump as well. Nancy Mace just endorsed him this past week, and so it's I don't know where she goes because it's like, when you're looking at this, a lot of people compare this to a political death, but she's someplace now between denial and anger. So she's kind of like the idea that she could win the nomination. It's not going to happen. So she's in denial in that regard, and she'll probably campaign like she used to campaign for governor. But Donald Trump's been president. South Carolina liked him a lot. He's won it before, and he won the primary in 2016. He won the state twice when he ran for president. So this time he's leading in the polls. So I don't know where she goes. And, once she realizes she's going to lose her home state where the voters know her best, she's getting angry. And she looked angry in her speech last night before. She went out there before President Trump to, try to, say she'd won, even though she was down 11 points.
Yeah, by the way, what did you make of that strategy that she went out first? And it was interesting because I was watching it live, John McLaughlin, and I'm thinking, is she about to announce she's dropping out because she clearly lost at that point? But you almost would have thought she won the way she was acting. Was that a good strategy or was that sort of a naive strategy?
Well, that was for her donors because she really has these big donors like Reid Hoffman, the owner of LinkedIn, the billionaire supporter of Joe Biden, gave her super PAC at least $250,000. And then you've got these other never Trump oligarchs who have given her, she spent over $31 million that we know of in New Hampshire. She outspent us at least 2-1 in Iowa and at least 2-1 in New Hampshire. But you might as well tell these billionaires to just go out to the dumpster, throw the cash in, and throw a match to it because you're going to lose to Donald Trump. And so I think she gave that speech to try to keep the money coming in because she was already planning on going up with, the same ads that didn't work in Iowa, the same ads that didn't work in New Hampshire. And she's out there running on electability, which is strange because she says she's 17 points up, but that poll that was an outlier was from December 4th, and she crashed in the polls during the month of December, where Donald Trump's ahead of Joe Biden in the polls, even as of today, and she was losing in mid-December, in the polls in a Harvard-Harris poll, then she was losing to Joe Biden in a Yahoo News poll, and then an Economist YouGov poll, and then last week Rasmussen Reports had Trump up 8 on Joe Biden, and she was losing by 2. So she says things that flat out aren't true and can be proven not true. So for her to say she won, or act like she won, just kind of fit the whole thing. But it's she's not there. So the reality is this is going to be Donald Trump's nomination. She needs to get together with the rest of the party, realize that we need to have unity in the Republican Party. We need to go fight Joe Biden. Joe Biden is preparing a $200 million attack on Donald Trump in the battleground states through a third party called American Bridge.
Wow.
And so just proves we're ahead. I mean, let's look at the facts. He's tried indicting him 4 times. Right. That didn't work. He's gone up in the polls. Then they tried to ban him from the ballot. That didn't work. So that's being thrown out. And then they tried to confiscate, Letitia James tried to confiscate his real estate business and his wealth and ban him from real estate in New York. And he keeps winning. And so, what are they going to do? I mean, they can't stop him. So they've been funding Nikki Haley's campaign, and she's losing. So she needs to get with the rest of the Republican Party and say, we're going to beat Joe Biden, and I'm happy to support President Trump. And he's the best candidate. And that's it. But, it might take a little convincing by the voters of South Carolina to make sure that happens.
Going to the gym can be discouraging, especially if you're putting in the work but barely seeing changes. But with Tonal, you can actually see your progress with every workout. Tonal provides the convenience of a full gym and the expertise of a personal trainer anytime at home with one sleek system. Designed to reduce your mental load, Tonal is the ultimate strength training system, helping you focus less on workout planning and more on getting results. No more second-guessing your technique. Tonal gives you real-time coaching cues to dial in your form and help you lift safely and effectively. After a quick assessment, Tonal sets the optimal weight for every move and adjusts in 1-pound increments as you get stronger, so you're always challenged. Tonal lets you choose from a variety of expert-led workouts, from strength to arrow hit to yoga and mobility, to keep you coming back for more. For a limited time, go to Tonal.com to get $500 off your Tonal purchase, plus a free 4-year warranty. That's Tonal.com for $500 off, plus a free 4-year warranty. Tonal.com.
So why is she staying in? Is there, I guess my question is also, when you look at some of these other donors, John McLaughlin, like the Reid Hoffmans, who are Democrats, is there an objective for them to keep her going, even knowing that she's not going to make it, but just to kind of keep her in the race to be Trump's thorn in the side, which seems to be their pattern?
their goal is to hurt Donald Trump to make it possible for Joe Biden to get reelected. So they're using her. And
will they keep using her now, for a while now for that reason, even if it's clear that she's not going to beat him?
Well, I think that, certainly the Biden donors want to do that because she's been quoted saying, anybody can give to her. And she says her opponents, when they were calling out these Biden donors, she says, well, they're just jealous. So she knows what she's doing and she's complicit in this. But the Republican voters, like the independents and Republicans in New Hampshire, the Republicans out in Iowa, they saw through this. And they realize all these ads she's running are being paid for by Biden supporters. So, that's the biggest goal inside the Republican Party. We've got 90% of the Republican voters want to replace Joe Biden, and they see him as crooked. They see him as, they 69% of all voters in the United States say that these indictments against Donald Trump are political. 58% think Joe Biden played a role. That's of all voters, and it's 80-90% among Republicans. So, we want our country back, and we want, real issues to be solved. We want inflation to go down. We want the border to be fixed. We want crime and, the criminals coming in, the terrorists coming in not to be here. We want these endless wars to end because when Donald Trump was president, Putin never attacked Ukraine, and Iran was broke and couldn't, fund their terrorists against Israel and the Americans, our military that are in the Persian Gulf and the Middle East. So, so it's like there's a lot at stake here, and she's got to realize that this is just more than her running for an election. It's now she's got to get out of the way because she's gonna be used by these Biden supporters who want to stop Donald Trump, to just try to damage our efforts right now. But the party's coming together. The vast majority of elected officials have endorsed President Trump and are focused on beating Joe Biden.
You talked about a whole bunch of those issues, John McLaughlin. I thought it was so interesting. In Iowa, the top issue was immigration and border, then economy. Same thing in New Hampshire. They're, of course, very worried about the northern border and the southern border. Are you surprised how big of an issue that has become? And obviously, that fits so well in President Trump's wheelhouse because he did such a great job securing the border. And we're seeing the results of an open, dangerous border right now.
Right. We're not surprised. It's all over the country. Even you have an upcoming election on February 13th, a special election in the New York 3rd Congressional District. The number one issue is immigration. And it's because, you broadcast from New York all the time. Just walk out on the street. There's people there that don't have jobs, that are here illegally, and, they're on public assistance, but crime's going up. It's a lot more dangerous. Long Island, you had MS-13 around the country. Texas, it's unbelievable that the governor of Texas tried to seal his own border by putting, barbed wire across the border and trying to keep people from crossing the Rio Grande. And now you got the federal government saying to the Border Patrol, you've got to take that barbed wire down. And the Supreme Court had a terrible ruling where they're basically saying we're going to allow the federal Border Patrol to follow Joe Biden's orders and remove the barriers so these illegals can come in. And when you think about the amount of illegals, it's like the number of millions come in here. It's like the state of Pennsylvania. You've got it all over the country, whether it's Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, California. We don't know who these people are. They're not vetted. And Nikki Haley, by the way, she not only opposed Trump's border wall when he first proposed it, she opposed his ban on travel from terrorist countries. So it's like she's got a lot of explaining to do on the issues. So right now she says she's for these positions, but on the other hand, it's well documented. It's on video. She's had some pretty not Republican positions. And then you look at the one thing the middle class gets is Social Security, Medicare. She says the age for getting Social Security is way too low, and she wants to cut benefits, and she calls it an entitlement. To most working Americans, that's something they put into all their lives and they're counting on. So, now when you've got Democrat governors giving free health care to illegals, and you've got, illegals, I guess at some point will be getting Social Security if they're not being here in their lives while everybody else paid in. This is just, it's just something where the vast majority of Americans want to get this fixed because it's really out of control, and it's not good for the country.
Yeah, and this really does play into President Trump's wheelhouse, don't you think? I mean, he is ideally suited for this moment where we have such a wide open border.
Yes, and he also changed the Republican Party when he ran in 2015. When he ran and nobody thought he could win, and he was at like 2% of the polls, all of a sudden he says, these free trade agreements are not working because we're shipping jobs over to China, to Mexico, and we're losing our jobs here in America. And that's why Donald Trump's winning in Michigan by 8 points because of the auto workers. They don't want to see their last remaining jobs sent to China for these electric vehicles that don't work or that Americans don't want. And he also said that, the day he announced, he said that there's people coming here that they're not sending the best and the brightest, he said, but they're coming here illegally. And he talked about, creating a wall and securing the border back then. And now it's a crisis now across America right now because local governments, state governments, they can't afford it. And the Democrats are just trying to figure out how can they register these people to vote who are not even citizens and not get caught trying to, allow non-citizens to vote and benefit the Democrat Party. So it's just it's not a good situation. So we have to, this is something that's going to benefit Donald Trump, but he had the courage back in 2015 to raise this issue while many of the establishment Republicans were talking about how do they do amnesty, how do they do, trying to bring in more immigrants that were not the best for the country. So.
Fellas, Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It is right in his wheelhouse. And I think about also John McLaughlin when all those huge caravans of illegal migrants were heading, remember, over the bridge and all that stuff. That was right before 2016. And people said, we need to protect our country first. We need to give priority to our citizens first. Vet who's coming in, like you're talking about. And I feel like we're living this moment again, and they're seeing the results of a disastrous policy, reverting all the policies that were working under President Trump. And this President Biden, has just changed everything, and people are longing for what it feels like to have a secure country. Your final thoughts?
Well, by the way, on that last thought, it's not the traditional Republican coalition that supports Donald Trump on that issue on immigration. He is winning 26% of the African American vote nationally that we saw in our polls on our website, McLaughlinonline.com. That's up there. He's also winning Hispanics, 47-40, because those Hispanics that are citizens that vote came here legally and did it the right way. And there was even a Siena poll out in New York that has Trump within double digits of winning New York against Joe Biden, and he's winning the Hispanic vote precisely because legal, naturalized immigrants who are here and played by the rules resent what's going on right now, and they also see the danger of terrorists coming into the country as well as criminals that shouldn't be here. So the stakes are very high for this election.
Yeah, they could not be higher. So much is at stake. Well, John McLaughlin of McLaughlin Associates, you are terrific. Everybody also go to McLaughlinonline.com, as you heard, for a whole bunch of more details. John is a walking encyclopedia on this stuff. You're the best. And also, everybody be sure to subscribe and share to this powerful podcast. John, thank you so much for being here.
Rita, thank you for the opportunity. You do a great job.
And everybody, I'll be back soon with another great edition of Protecting America. And of course, you can catch me every weeknight, 10 p.m. to midnight on the legendary WABC Radio. This is Rita Cosby, and thanks for all you do to protect America.
folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.